So the first part, we're going to quickly knock up the perimeter and internal walls for the house that we're going to be using to put our doors and windows in. And we've got a grid set up, so this is in walls and doors set out, and this will be made available to you. We're going to use a cavity wall construction on the outer skin with plasterboard, and then below ground as part of our stacked wall system we're going to use a very similar wall with the exception of the plasterboards. That's all going to line through nicely. So first up, we're going to use the wall tool on the architecture tab, and if we hit the drop down, we don't want to go to the stack wall, we want to come up to this one, which is the wall 102 blockwork, 75 insulation, 100 blockwork, so it's brickwork, sorry, blockwork, and 12 plasterboard. That's the one that's going above the floor, then this one's going to sit below it. We don't need the plaster below it, so click on that. The location line is going to be our core face on the exterior. The height is going to level 2 from level 0. So let's just check what we've got here. Base constraint level 0, base offset nothing, top constraint up to there, and top offset nothing as well. So that will all be good. If we click then at this sort of intersection here, and as we track out, we should be able to see it sitting on the outside face of the core. That extra line on the inside is showing us that's the plasterboard, so we're going in the right direction. And then we can come to this intersection, pan down to there, across to there, up to here, and then back there. There's no close command in Revit, so this goes back to that core and it should just join those corners. And then as we hit escape a couple of times, it sorts out the corner for us. So that's the external wall gone in. Now we need to put in the stacked wall below it for the foundation. So again, we choose wall, and this time we're going to go down to the stacked wall section, and we'll call it this one, stacked wall project house. And we know from hitting the edit type and the edit that this is the wall that's going to line up with this one. Our offsets are currently set to 0. That's going to arrange this arrangement, not its arrangement with the grid lines or anything else. We'll sort that out in a minute. So we're okay with this, and we can say okay to that. So the base constraint is level 1, okay, and the base offset will have -2000. Now we could have the base constraint set to a different level and have a positive offset, but we're going to have negative offset from level 0. So when level 0 moves, if it ever does, then the wall above it will move and the wall below it will move as well. So that's really what we're looking for. And again, we'll go for core face exterior. It should all line through, but let's see what happens. So again, we come to this point. Now I could use pick lines, but I'll just carry on tracking through, and notice that it's not sitting. So the core face is sitting on the outside edge of the foundation, so let's not worry too much about that. And we'll come down to this point. We'll use the offset command in a minute to get it all to work properly. We might have to do a little bit of alignment here as well, so it's not hitting these things as nicely as it should, but it is coming in nonetheless. And then we come back up to there and hit escape a couple of times. All looks extremely messy. Let's have a look in 3D at what we've got, and we've got something that looks a little bit weird like this. So let's go to our section. We'll tidy this up. Let's not worry about anything happening. Oh, I can see what's going on now. Okay, so it's nice that these mistakes happen, allows us to sort it out. So this is our stacked wall. So if we select this and then right click and select all instances visible in view, that's got all of these stacked walls sorted out. The top constraint up to level 2, that's not what we want. The top constraint is going to go to up to level 0. So that's the first thing. So we apply that, and all these walls are going to come down to this position. Then we can just move around these sections and align these things. With the alignment tool, we go from this face to this face, and from this face to this face in this view. Then we'll go to section 2, and again we've got a few walls that need to be sorted out because they weren't selected in the previous view. So this one, right click, select all instances in entire project. Let's try that instead, and top constraint set to level 0, apply that. That should get everything looking right. This bit we can see here in elevation is a little return, so let's do this first. So again, align, and then align this face with this face, and then we've got a little bit more to do on the other side. So we'll go to a floor plan view, and we can move our section. I think this is the, if you go to our site, we should see below, and we can see which ones aren't quite lined up, and it's this one here and this thing here. So we can move this section cut to this bit and this section cut to this bit. Now I know it probably would be easier if we got everything sorted out correctly at the start, but it's always useful to see little mistakes happening and then how to rectify it. It doesn't take too long once you know what you're looking for, and use all the tools that Revit gives you to find these missing bits. So double click on that. This is the bit that we need to concentrate on. So align that to that, and then we can go back to section 2. We should see a little bit of an anomaly in this one, and alignment from there to there. So that should give us everything we're looking for. And 3D view, we can now see everything's nice and tidy around the perimeter of the project. So that's all working just like it should. So we'll look inside to see, make sure the walls aren't climbing up now. So this is precisely what we're looking for. So we can go back to our level 0 plan. Now we've got everything looking the way it should. We can just quickly put in some floors, and if we go to the floor, and we'll go for a floor architectural, and we are looking for a ground bearing concrete slab with hardcore underneath it. So this is the sort of thing that we're looking for. Room bounding, structural, we can make it structural if you want by ticking this box, but we'll just leave it as a non-structural element. And we will use this option this time, pick walls. And then we'll tab once, press the tab key, hover over the edge of the wall, press the tab key, and then we can click on the chain of walls to create that. And we notice that it's going right inside there. So we can hit this. So we move it to the inside face of the walls, because the ground bearing slab isn't going to go into the blockwork. It's just going to sit alongside it. And then we can say OK. And would you like the walls that go to this floor's level to attach to its bottom? No, we don't want to do that in this instance, because of the ground bearing slab, again, if we look at this section, we just want it to sit in here. We don't want to attach to this. But what we do get is the plaster finish stopping at the screed, which is precisely what we wanted to do. It's probably going to stop a little bit above it, and the skirting board is going to sit over it, but this is what we're kind of wanting to happen, and the outside skin is running through. So our ground floor has gone in, it's got to level 1, and we can put a structural timber floor. Now this is going to go into the brickwork, because the joist would actually rest sometimes on joist hangers and sometimes it'd be in the brickwork, but I'll just show you what happens if we do that. So again, architectural floor, and we'll go floor architectural, and this time we'll go for a floor timber. That's a joist and some sort of board, clapboard type thing on top. So we'll choose that, level 1, and again we will choose the wall option. So hover over a wall, hit the tab key, click, and this time we'll have it going into the depth of the block, and then we'll say OK to that. And this time we're going to say yes, because the floor roof overlaps the highlighted walls. These are these. Would you like to join the geometry and cut off the overlapping volume of the walls? Yes, we would. So that's what's happened, and the volume has been chopped out. So again, we look at this bit, and we can see that in this instance, this is what's happened. Now what we have got is this top edge. It is stepped back, and what we can see, this line, don't think the floor finish runs through. This is the grid line, or the level line, should I say. The floor does stop at that point, so it's quite clever. This is the structural bit of the floor going into the structural element of the wall, and then the non-structural bits, they wrap or stop or cut back as appropriate. So as again, we've got a nice finish at that point. So that's pretty much our floors and the outside skin sorted out. We go back to level 0, and this time I'm going to put some internal partitions in. Let's not get too bogged down with how many rooms we put in. We'll put some rooms in because I can show you some other scheduling options later. And we'll use the wall tool, and we can use basic walls. Now take your pick. You can either go for internal block with plasterboard, so we'll use some of those on the ground floor, and I'll just put a couple in across there, hit escape once, and then down to that bit, hit escape. I'll just come down. I've no idea so whether these are the right size or not for anything. I've no idea about the layout, but we'll put some of these sorts of spaces in. So we've got sort of a landing area here where we can access in. The doors, let's not forget, are going to form their own openings in these walls, so we haven't got to worry about that happening. And maybe we have a closet down here as well, so we can pop that in there. Again, this can all be determined at any time, but we'll just put some in for the moment. And then we go to the level 1, and on level 1 we've got an underlay set to level 0. If that's set to none, then we can't see what's going on below, but this underlay option allows us to see what's happening at level 0. So that means that we can position our first floor partitions in line with this. So this time we'll choose some plasterboard partitions. So again, wall. This time we'll go for a 75 stud with plasterboard on the outside, so that will be fine. And we want to make sure that we get our external finishes lining up this time. If this is going to be a landing area where the stair can come up, let's argue. So finish face exterior, that's what we're looking at for this. And then we can start putting in these things. If it's sitting the other side, then spacebar just to toggle it from one side to the other. And we can again sort of make some sweeping design choices. Like now it's sitting the wrong side, so I'll tap the spacebar to get it into the right side. And that, be careful of that sort of section cut there to make So I got a few walls in there, that's going to be fine, that's all we really need. And now I can look at toggling these. That's not sitting right in there, so I can just drag it in and then it'll tidy itself up, so it's very good at this sort of thing. This is sitting in the wrong position as well, so again use the align tool, select the wall first, align that point to this point. So again, that's lining itself through. Repositioning these things, select it. Now we can have a look at the witness lines. Maybe you want this wall to be a certain distance from this face, not that one. So you just, again, we can adjust these to position it there. So it's maybe 10 meters from that wall. So this is how we adjust all these things, given the tools that Revit gives us. So now, again, look at our 3D view. And we've got walls above and walls below. Now the other thing that we're looking at, I'm going to go back to the section cut for this. Section 1 will be fine. We'll see that our ground floor blockwork walls are going up to the underside of the floor. Now we want them to go to the underside of the joist. So that is going to have a offset value from the top of the level 247. So this time we will select this and we will select all instances in project, and we will give it a top offset of -247. Apply. That's going to drop them all down to that point, and we can support these on to these things. Okay, so it's all quite simple really. This block work as well would probably not sit in the screed, it would probably sit on this slab here. So you could look at the distance between there and this point, and we are looking at 155. So again, we could select this, right click, select all instances in entire project and have its base constraint set to -155 and apply that. So that's going to come down to there. Now we have got a little bit of cutting out that we probably need to do in that area, and we may have a chance to look at that a bit later on. There are a couple of ways of doing it. I'm not sure exactly how Revit would deal with some of these, but there are ways in Annotate where you can put a region over it to mask it out, but there might be another way with some of the modified tools. This one, Cut, there might be a way of doing it with that as well, so let's have a look. But that's enough to get us going. We've built a very crude sort of house shell in about 20 odd minutes, and now we're going to start looking at doors and windows.